I've been asked to think about something I never think about, creativity, because I am in the flow of it right now. I'm editing a film about Mexican cartels and American independent growers in California in conflict. And I'm also working on a 10-hour monster for television called The Untold History of the United States, which I will not tell you about because it will take more than my allotted time. But I did think about it, creativity, on Tuesday, and again on Saturday, today. And you know, it's not a stupid question, because it's at the base of all our lives. It's a void. I'm 4 years old again. I'm in my room in New York City. I'm an only child, it's raining, and I can't go out and play because my friends are somewhere else. My mom and my dad, they're off somewhere in the world making a living. My parakeet and my dog are asleep. What am I going to do with myself? All this time, all this space. Where is this energy I have going to go? This is I think, a fundamental moment in all our evolution. Why do we do anything? That too is an option. You can eat, you can nap, you can just sit there and feel the boredom. You taste it, you can be lazy, you can enjoy the laziness. At this point in the narrative is when Mr. Spitz, alone, dives into his local pool and with his body and its sensations, swims in his own world. It's where Mr. Krugman starts playing with those numbered blocks. 6 times 6 is 36. 2 minus 1 is still 1. And if daddy does this, mommy does that, and the nanny does this, what does that leave me to do with my time? This is an economic puzzle. What Mr. Christoph did in that evolutionary moment, I have no idea, because he's from Oregon and I'm from New York City. But me, I love cowboys and Indians, but there were no Indians to play with. So I loved football. I loved American football, and I had plenty of football cards with the faces of the players staring right at me. So guess what? Step one, I bought those cards with my 25-cent allowance that my father gave me every week for writing a one-page short story. I didn't particularly like it. It was extra work, but it was money, M-O-N-E-Y. And with money, you could get football cards. Step two, I wanted to make the old man happy, just happy enough, and you can make 75 cents a week if you write 3 one-page stories. So I accelerated the process of writing, and pretty soon I had 300 football cards. Step 3 was to invent something to do with those cards. You just can't look at them over and over. It's like looking at comic books. So thus, you come up with the game. You devise rules, intricate rules, and as the weeks pass, it gets more and more intricate and more involving both my force and will by clashing the cards together for the running game and allowing the factors of chance and luck for the passing game by throwing a single dice with 6 options on it. That would be a complete pass, an incomplete pass, the run after the catch, the fumble. So with step 4, with variations, the game grew statistically into a log, which within 6 months became a massive book with voluminous records of teams, names, running yardage, passing yardage, very much the precursor to what became fantasy football in my country. I was a happy 8-year-old. In fact, I did 4 or 5 years of this in a solitary world of my own. It was my game, my world. I could always go here whenever I wanted. I'd never be bored, and I could play God, weaving between my will, which manifested 50% of the time in the game, and 50% in the dice, which is luck. 50-50. That's about the right balance, it seems to me, with life. Cut to step 5. 4 or 5 years later, I played myself out with football. I was bored. The game no longer attracted me. I was in the country in the summer. August was upon us. I was 12, 13. And suddenly I saw before me this huge book, another book, but not with football statistics, but with handwriting in it. And it would be a novel. It would be like one of those novels that Tolstoy wrote that was 1,000 pages. I wanted to do a story, and I started to write an epic novel about the French Revolution with many families, like a Balzac narrative that would go back and forth. And I kept writing all August, and I had pretty soon somewhere like 700 pages scrawled out. Nothing much happened with the book, and I wasn't Tolstoy. But I found out I really enjoyed writing. And my dad, bless his soul, had tricked me into it. There was another book, more complete, at 19. It was written here in Mexico, Child's Night Dream. I wrote another 2,000 pages here in Mexico when I was 19 years old. And I discovered the joy of writing. It took 30 years for that book to be published. I went back to finish it in 1997, and it was published. But I did it. The journey come full circle. I thank God I found movies in the interim, because it takes a lot. I found a movie a lot more exciting than writing novels. But it's the collision with the other world that is creativity, and it's the energy to fill that new void. I would start this with imagination. We all have it. We all have one. But often we just fail to use it. Children especially have an advantage here because they have time. They have time to fill the space. I've been wrestling with my 16-year-old daughter. But she's tough, you know. She's in an elite school in Los Angeles, and the problems of an entitled generation, blah, blah, blah. But the bottom line is she used to paint when she was 6 to 14 years old. And at 16, she didn't have any more time for that. Why? Because she likes to socialize with her friends, go to parties, hang out, listen to music. Well, I tell her, that's easy. That's fun. But where's your passion? Where's it gone? Into your friends? Yes. Into your phone and your internet and your social network? Yes. What is it we're losing here? It's really a pretty simple answer. It's being alone. Alone with yourself, to think, to hear, taste, feel, meditate, be bored, listen to the sound of boredom. Alone we're born, and alone we die. It is with ourselves that we must come to terms. Voltaire said, cultivate your own garden. So now I'm a real bad guy with my daughter because I intervened and said, okay, we're cutting down on the socializing. You're going out only with permission. One night a weekend, maybe, if you behave. But this Friday, you're not going to this Halloween party. You're staying in the house. What do? She protested. You're so boring. I don't want to be with you. Or Mom. Well, long story short, having gone through the pain of being loathed by your daughter, 3 weeks later, I came back to my house, last night in fact, and I found the young lady drawing a striking mural right on her bedroom wall while singing to herself with a headset on. All of a sudden, I saw in her eyes the passion and the joy I had seen in those ages when she was 9 through 14. It made my night victory. It gives me the greatest pleasure still to see creativity at work in others as well as myself. It's there, but let's give it its sacred place. Trust it. Give it alone time. It's also about fear. Fear is the 600-pound gorilla in the room. We see it, it roars at us, we back down and run. But you notice that fear chases you, but it doesn't kill you. It can't kill us. Fear cannot actually make you do what it wants. So I suggest talk back to fear, breathe through it, feel it. And getting to know fear, your fear, helps because it clears out a lot of negative energy. It's also fun to do something scary for the first time, like go into a cave where anything could be in there in the dark. Or many of you have perhaps gone into a deep forest when the sun is dropping alone. Or to break into a house when you're not sure anyone lives there. It's thrilling and it's fun, and it's also challenging something in yourself. And if you get away with it, you will always carry that memory, and it will add up in your imagination. There's also imitation. I did that too. In writing, I imitated Joyce. I played them all. Conrad, Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, Hemingway, Mailer, generally men, Ian Fleming. I became them as much as I could, and I was them, and I was ersatz. But I learned from all my imitations. It's a form of flattery. And through imitating, I became the sum of another person. I became the sum of many parts. There's a bit of this, a bit of that, a bit of this, but then it forms and coagulates around who you are, and your character takes over. Each movie is like that too. You become the subject of that movie for that period of time. And over time, it thickens and resonates. And you get what they call, eventually, lines in your face and some character. And then there's another one about creativity. There's lies. That's part of it too. Creativity, lies. Where would we be without the lies of our parents told us, or the particular hypocrisies of the time we're born in? Societies are full of them. To me, lies gave rise to much anger, and anger is part of creativity if it's harnessed well. Because in me, it's rebellion. I grew up, as many of you did in America, in North America, with communism being told that was our threatening disaster was about to happen to us. From 1940s to 1990s, we paid a heavy toll by creating a monster, a fear that was much bigger in imagination than it was in reality. And now it's terrorism and ridiculous wars. So it's pretty depressing as with all the media noise, we sort of fall asleep to the true inner meaning of our time. But the child doesn't. The child gets it back. And lastly, and I think most importantly, creativity is based on spirituality. This space, this void that I started with. Your voice is a wind, it's the Holy Ghost, it's whatever you call it. Your voice is the word. It's what you do with your time on earth. To make sacred space, to take space, like in that little room when you're alone, and to make it sacred is the role of art. You see it in the works, you see it in Asia, in the great Hindu and Buddhist temples and cathedrals of Europe, in the cave paintings 25,000 years ago in France, the representations of a life force made, done, created to share with the tribe, a form of coming together, a catharsis, a healing of the tribe. In the West, I don't know. Sometimes we're so secular, it seems we can argue on what our tribe is. Too much division. Art is marginalized. Artists are scary because they threaten the perception, the commodification of perception. But that's what we must do. Creativity requires us to challenge. It is controversial. We must challenge the thinking and fashion of the time and our society. Art, creativity must peel back the official lies we tell ourselves. So in closing, respect, please, the essential faith in yourself, the evidence of things unseen. You are born with nothing, and to nothing will go. But in this brief flame of life, of a lifetime, you must act as if you were a child in a room with nothing to do, and reach out with your scared mind and tender, raw heart, and just let it go. You'll be surprised. Thank you.